Hello and good evening, friends, and welcome to the Week 16 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined, as always, by good old MF Michael Fletcher and Michael Bullock. No need for a Saints-Rams recap. MF and I did that at the end of our show last night. So with that, we're just going to dive right on into the action, gentlemen. The week 16 of the NFL as part of this Christmas weekend, and we've got some stocking stuffers, and we got two massive gifts in the form of a huge double main event this upcoming week. But of course, it started last night. The Rams defeating the Saints 30-22. And like I said, MF and I addressed that last night. But now we're going to dive on into the action that continues tomorrow. We got ourselves a doubleheader tomorrow. The first game of which will be featured exclusively on NBC, 4:30 p.m. kickoff. And for us on our side of the ledger, this game came in as our number 4 game of the week. Cincinnati Bengals squaring off against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Acrisure Stadium, formerly Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. And on the call for NBC, it'll be the Big Ten Saturday night crew, Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge, and Catherine Tappan. They will be on the call for this one. Cincinnati opening up as a 3-point favorite. Meeting between these two teams, they met about a month ago. Cincinnati and the Steelers actually won that game 16-10. So Pittsburgh adds to their all-time series lead. It's now 67-39. And they split last year, both teams winning on the road. So Cincinnati won in Pittsburgh last year, 37-30. Matter of fact, the Bengals have won in Pittsburgh each of the last 2 years. They won 37-30 last year, 24-10 the year before. Pittsburgh's last win against Cincinnati at home was in 2020, a 36-10 beatdown. So with that, gentlemen, let's dive right on in. The Steelers and Bengals have trended in opposite directions since the Steelers won the first meeting a month ago, with the Bengals going 3-0 since, and the Steelers in an 0-3 spiral. Earlier this week, Pittsburgh wide receiver Deontay Johnson said, "The team that wins the line of scrimmage will win the game." Considering the Bengals have averaged 116 rushing yards a game since putting up only 25 against the Steelers, while the Steelers have averaged 95 a game since they recorded 153 versus the Bengals. The ground game figures to dictate the outcome of this rematch. Bengals receiver T. Higgins will have at least 150 receiving yards. Cincinnati is without wide receiver Jamar Chase, and the Steelers are down safeties Minkah Fitzpatrick with a knee who's currently suspended. That is a recipe for Higgins to have a big day and build upon his performance against Minnesota that features one of the top catches of the season. Steelers quarterbacks have nearly as many interceptions, 9, as passing touchdowns, 10. Pittsburgh ranks 26th in completion percentage, 62%, and total QBR, 37. The X factor is Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson. He'll be facing slightly below average tackle Dan Moore Jr. and can wreck Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph's day in a hurry. Hendrickson has a 22% pass rush win rate at edge, which ranks 12th in the position. What's at stake? Well, I'll tell you what's at stake. The Steelers basically need to win to keep playoff hopes alive. They would have a 9% chance to make the AFC field with a win. But those odds drop below 1% if they lose their 4th straight. The Bengals, meanwhile, can make a playoff statement tomorrow. A win bumps them up to 56%, while a loss knocks them all the way down to 13%. The Bengals cannot cover tight ends. This season, Cincinnati's defense has given up the second most fantasy points in ends. The Steelers' Pat Freiermuth has averaged 8.4 targets, 6 receptions, and 67 receiving yards versus Cincinnati in his career. Steelers are 0-3 against the spread in their last 3 games. They're also 0-3 against the spread in their last 3 games as an underdog. The F likes Cincinnati here, 58% by an average of almost 3 points. I got to go with Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati wins this one. My final score, I'm going to say 20-17. Cincinnati steals one in Pittsburgh. Keeps their hopes alive and pretty much all but knocks Pittsburgh out. So not much more to say here. MF, Michael Fletcher, come on in. Our number 4 game of the week. Imperative for both teams because the winner, slight chance of making it. The loser, especially Pittsburgh. Ooh, boy.
If Pittsburgh loses, their season's over. Like, no doubt. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If Pittsburgh loses this game, their season is over. If Cincinnati loses, it basically puts them almost one loss away from being knocked out. So they would be very, very, very much in peril if they lose. But the way that I've been looking at both teams, one team's on the rise, the other team's on the free fall, and that team on the free fall is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know what it is. At first we thought it was Matt Canada that was the problem, that they couldn't get the offense going. But now, with Canada gone, the offense is just as bad, maybe even worse. So obviously it's not the offensive coordinator's fault. The level of play is just inconsistent with Pittsburgh. They don't run the ball much. When they try to do it, they get stymied. Now you're going up against a Cincinnati defense that is actually pretty good against the run. And now it looks like they're going through their third possible quarterback. I don't know. At first I heard it was going to be Mitchell Trubisky. Now I'm hearing it might be Mason Rudolph starting on.
It is. It's actually going to be Mason Rudolph.
It's Mason Rudolph. So that's their third quarterback that they're going through to try to save their season. Cincinnati wins. I got nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I gotta go with Cincinnati too. I mean, they are just on the rise, and we were thinking the moment they lost Joe Burrow, we were like, season's done for them. But Browning, I mean, what can you say about him? He has stepped up, and he stepped up in a big way, and I expect him to continue to be on this roll in Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's free falling time, and I think this is where the line stops for them, and I think their chances of making the playoffs are going to be pretty much done. So Cincinnati wins. Let's move on.
The other half of the doubleheader tomorrow, and this one is going to be exclusively on Peacock. Exclusively on Peacock. However, keyword however, for the people of Buffalo and Los Angeles, for those of you in the Buffalo and Los Angeles areas who do not have Peacock, no problem. This game will be simulcast on your respective NBC affiliates. For Buffalo, that's WGRZ NBC Channel 2. And for LA, as we all know, that's KNBC NBC Channel 4 in Los Angeles. I will have another announcement about a simulcast a little bit later on in the show. And it involves Bullock's Patriots. Oh, by the way, a little spoiler alert. But nonetheless, this next game, 8 o'clock, exclusively on Peacock. My Buffalo Bills squaring off against the Los Angeles Chargers. It's our number 6 game of the week on our side of the ledger. Sunday Night Crew working this game, of course, on a Saturday night. We got Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark. They will be at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood for this one. Buffalo opening up as a 12.5-point favorite. However, the Chargers, lead the all-time series regular season-wise 24-11 with 2 ties. They last met in 2020 in Buffalo. Buffalo won that game by a score of 27-17. Last time they met in LA, 2017. And by the way, that Bills win in 2020 snapped a 4-game losing streak to the LA Chargers. And San Diego as well. Last meeting in LA was 2017. Chargers blew away Buffalo 54-24 in that one. Buffalo hasn't met the Chargers since the Chargers were the San Diego Chargers all the way back in 1981. 28-27. So there isn't anything left to say right now. MF, we started off with you, our number 6 game of the week. There's hardly anything at stake for the Chargers. Not much at play at all. But this game is big time imperative for Buffalo here. If they win, 71% chance for Buffalo to make the playoffs and a 35% chance to win their 4th straight AFC East division title. God forbid they lose, 29% playoff odds, 12% odds for the AFC East. So, but MF, I mean, ever since they got rid of Ken Dorsey, the Buffalo Bills have been a completely different team, a much better team, blew away the Jets. Yes, they let Philly get away, but damn it to hell, they hung with Philly. But the last 2 weeks especially, stealing one in Kansas City, and then absolutely manhandling the Dallas Cowboys in every phase of the game. Can they keep it up? I damn sure think they can.
Yeah, and the thing is that the Chargers are basically they're at the point where they're just waiting for the season to end. That's exactly what it is. They're just hoping and praying that the season comes to an end so that they can finally get rid of Brandon Staley. They just
They already did.
don't.
Brandon Staley's already out.
Yeah, so they're not at this point in the season. You would think now maybe they play for the new head coach. You know, they because remember what happened? I don't remember what team it was where they let go of their head coach, and then the next game out, it was the Raiders. I'm sorry, yeah, it was the Raiders. When they got rid of, McDaniel, Josh McDaniel, Antonio Pierce became the head coach, and we saw what they did that next game out, and absolutely was a different squad. So obviously, Buffalo is the overwhelming favorite. You know, as long as they let James Cook, do what he does, run the football, because that's the reason why Buffalo won that game. They ran the football and exploded. They had a running attack that a lot of people didn't think they had, but they had. So they dominated, they ran the football, and they ran it at ease against the Cowboys. Again, the Chargers should have no problem with it at all. So I think Buffalo should win this and win this one going away. Comfortable victory. And yeah, Buffalo will remain, in that hunt for the wild card. And then they're rooting very hard for the Dallas Cowboys to beat the Miami Dolphins. But we'll get into that game a little bit later on tonight. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, Buffalo should win. Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, ever since the Bills got rid of Ken Dorsey under Joe Brady, they've been a much different team offensively, and this team is all of a sudden in the playoff hunt, and yeah, they need to win out here, and then, like you said, they need to hope that the Dallas Cowboys beat the Miami Dolphins, and they all of a sudden are back in the AFC East race. So a lot of things have got to play out. But for the Chargers, yeah, they're basically just playing for pride right now. So I got the Buffalo Bills winning this one as well. And it's yours for it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what else there is to say except I couldn't be any happier with the progress that my team has made over the last month or so. Despite their issues, which resulted in the firing of coach Brandon Staley and general manager Tom Telesco last Friday, and the Buffalo Bills' recent resurgence, the Los Angeles Chargers have won 4 of their last 5 games against Buffalo, dating to 2011, and have dominated the all-time series, including playoffs, 25-13 with 2 ties. This game will be something of a reunion for Charger safety Dean Marlowe, who played for the Bills from 2018 to 2020. The Bills' offense will score at least 40 points. The Buffalo offense has put together some of its best performances under interim offensive coordinator Joe Brady, scoring more than 30 points in 3 of those 4 games, coming off a blowout win over Dallas. Both the run and pass are a serious threat. The Chargers defense has allowed the second most touchdowns and first downs, and it gave up 63 points last Thursday night to Vegas. With 2 teams on opposite trajectories, the Bills should be able to put up major points. Bills quarterback Josh Allen is seeking his 4th straight season with 40 combined passing and rushing touchdowns. He already holds the NFL record with 3 straight seasons. And he can tie, listen to this, guys, he can tie Tom Brady for the second most seasons overall with 3 touchdowns to Mike. The X factor, the Bills defense. Suddenly, it's coming together. After scuffling in the middle part of the season following injuries to linebacker Matt Milano, cornerback Tre'Davious White, and defensive tackle Daquan Jones, the Bills defense showed a major resurgence over the last couple weeks against Kansas City and Dallas, especially their pass defense. As long as that continues, Buffalo should roll with no problem. Chargers receiver Joshua Palmer is firmly on the sleeper radar as Keenan Allen will not play due to a heel injury. He caught all 4 of his targets for 113 receiving yards and a touchdown against the Raiders in Week 15. In 18 career games where he has been targeted 6 or more times, Palmer has averaged 5 catches and 65 receiving yards. Chargers are 0-5 against the spread as underdogs, including 0-3 against the spread as home underdogs. They're 0-5 outright and against the spread against teams currently with winning records. Buffalo is an overwhelming FPI favorite here. This might be the highest FPI favorite they've had all year. Buffalo is currently in the FPI 82% by an average of 12 points for the Buffalo Bills. And of course, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills as well. They keep it rolling. 35-13, Buffalo all over the LA Chargers tomorrow night. Now we move on to the Sunday slate, Christmas Eve, guys. And we started off, and we only have 6 early games here, gentlemen. The first of those 6 early games can be seen over on Fox, and it will feature it's a cross-flex game. Normally, this is a game you would have seen on CBS, but it's now on. It's going to be on Fox, and it will feature the Indianapolis Colts squaring off against the Atlanta Falcons. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Adam Amin, Mark Schlereth, and Christina Pink will be on the call. Atlanta opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. And listen to this stat, guys. Indianapolis leads the all-time regular season series against Atlanta 15-2. And the Colts have won the last 2 meetings, including the last one in 2019. They won in Indianapolis 27-24. Last meeting in Atlanta, 2015. Indianapolis also won that one 24-21. The Falcons have only beaten the Colts at home once. And that was all the way back in their Super Bowl year of 1998 when they defeated Indianapolis 28-21 at the old Georgia Dome. Michael Bullock, we started off with you here. And what's at stake? Well, I'll tell you what's at stake. Colts have a 69% chance to make the playoffs if they win, and a 32% chance to win the division, the AFC South. If they lose, 42% chance to make the playoffs, and 11% to win the division. For Atlanta, they have an uphill climb no matter what. Even if they win, they only have a 19% chance to make the playoffs and a 14% chance to win the NFC South. If they lose, 5% to make the playoffs and win the division. Imperative for both teams.
Yeah, it's definitely imperative for both teams. I mean, yeah, it's an uphill climb for Atlanta because it's just going to be tough for them. While Indianapolis, I mean, look, I just think that, especially after what they did to Pittsburgh last week, I mean, I see them as the better team here. I know they got Atlanta as the favorite, but I'm sorry, I disagree, and I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts to win this one. So Nothing more to say. It's yours, Florio.
You're right. Both teams will start quarterbacks they had no intention of starting at the beginning of the season. Taylor Heineke makes his third start this year for Atlanta in place of Desmond Ridder, and Gardner Minshew makes start number 11 for the Colts in place of Anthony Richardson. Heineke and Minshew have similar paths. Go from team to team, come in and play well when called upon as a backup for the starter. Heineke said, I feel like we would be pretty close as friends. I just think he looks like he has a lot of fun out there. He has a lot of passion for the game, and it looks like he's a kind of wild-spirited guy. And I feel like I would gravitate towards that. Falcons have allowed only 5 rushing touchdowns, all of them by quarterbacks, but look for Atlanta to allow its first rushing score from a running back, with the Colts' Jonathan Taylor ramping up after his recent thumb surgery. The offensive line performing better than it has all season, and the Colts showing a determined commitment to running the ball. Indianapolis ran on 13 consecutive plays on a late drive during last week's win over Pittsburgh. Colts have had 19 straight games with a takeaway, which is the longest active streak in the NFL and their longest since 2003-2004, when they had 21 straight games. With a takeaway, they will be tied for the third longest streak by any team in the last 10 years. The last team with a 20-game such streak, MF's Miami Dolphins, 26 straight over 2019 to 2021. The X Factor, Falcons head coach Arthur Smith. Fantasy managers have long been calling for Smith to put the ball in rookie running back Bijan Robinson's hands. But seriously, Robinson just got 7 carries and had 1 catch last week. The point of a playmaker is to have the ball in his hands, and you have to think it makes sense to try and give the ball to him. The Falcons haven't been a reliable offense for fantasy managers. Nevertheless, don't overlook wide receiver Drake London against a Colt defense that has recently given up big performances to Pittsburgh's Deontay Johnson, Tennessee's DeAndre Hopkins, and Tampa Bay's Mike Evans. In every game where London has had 7 or more targets this season, he has scored at least 10 fantasy points. Colts are 9-5 against the spread, tied for the best record in the NFL. We got a close spread here, gentlemen. Believe it or not, there's actually a spread later on that's actually closer than this one. FPI slightly gives it to Atlanta, but only 51%. 51% for Atlanta by an average of 0.3 points. But I disagree with that. I got to go with the Indianapolis Colts. I think Indianapolis wins it. They steal one at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. 24-21, Indianapolis steals one over Atlanta. So, MF, I give it to you. Huge game for both teams. I don't know what else there is to say. So, MF, come on in. The Indianapolis Colts, the Atlanta Falcons, and huge for both teams' playoff push.
Yeah, it is. And for Atlanta, there's actually still an outside chance to win the division. There is still a legit outside chance. They would need a few things to go their way, but I'm not really as convinced. I think Indy has a shot at this. I love Indy. I love their body of work. I've been secretly rooting for the Colts. And as a matter of fact, they actually, I think they're a game out from the division lead, if I remember correctly, Anthony. Are they?
I think right now we have a 3-way tie for first in the division.
Yeah.
With Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Houston.
So this is huge. This is a massive game because if they win this game, this actually could put them in line for the division title. So I'm going to go with Indy to win it, to steal it in Atlanta, and to make it one step closer to that division to crown. So, Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Bullock started.
Oh, I forgot. Bullock started. My bad. Sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead, okay. Anthony.
That's okay. Move on to our next early game. For the Fox side of the ledger, this is their Zonk game of the week right here. We got the Green Bay Packers squaring off against the Carolina Panthers, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Chris Myers, Robert Smith, and Jennifer Hale will be on the call for this one. and the spread favors Green Bay. Green Bay opening up as a 4.5-point favorite, and Green Bay leads the all-time series 10-6 in the regular season. And the Packers have also won the last 2 meetings in a row against Carolina, but both of those were at Lambeau. Their last meeting in Charlotte was 2017, and Carolina won that game 31-24. The Packers haven't won in Charlotte since 2011, and that was a 30-23 final. So let's dive on into this matchup. Just trying to find it in my notes here. Okay, here we go. This is a must-win game for the Packers, who have seen their playoff hopes drop with consecutive losses. You would think the Panthers would be a favorable matchup, as they have not scored an offensive touchdown the last 2 games and haven't scored an offensive first-half touchdown in 7 games. But in a key way, it's not. Carolina has committed to run the past 3 games and averaged 155 yards on the ground. Green Bay, ranked 30th in the NFL against the run, has given up 159 yards rushing a game the last 6 games, twice allowing more than 200 yards. Panthers will hit the 20-point mark against the Packer defense. It would end an 8-game streak in which they have been held to fewer than 20 points, longest streak in franchise history, and tied with the New York Giants for the longest streak in the NFL this season. Oh, by the way, the Giants put up 24 points on the Packers 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Football. Packers quarterback Jordan Love ranks in the top 5 in the NFL in total QBR 74, touchdown passes 9, and completions 101 since the start of Week 12. Green Bay is 2-2 in that span. The X factor is the Panthers' run defense. It ranks last in EPA per design carry, which is bad because the Panthers have been behind constantly and faced a lot of run situations, but have been better of late, ranking 13th in the category since Week 10. What's at stake here? Well, a couple of weeks ago, Green Bay looked like it was on a solid path to the playoffs. Now the Packers would drop all the way down to 5% if they lose, if they, God forbid, lose this game. But it would still only be just 29% if they win. And Carolina's draft pick, which belongs to Chicago, would be 92% likely to be number 1 if it loses a 13th game. Interestingly, those odds are 58% if Carolina finds a way to win. Packers' backfield remains a committee, but Aaron Jones finished last week with 17 carries and 69 total yards. He faces a Panther defense that has given up the 3rd most fantasy points a game to running backs. In 5 of its last 6 games, Carolina's defense has allowed 80 or more yards and a touchdown to opposing. Packers are 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games as road favorites. FPI likes Green Bay in this one, 69% going with Green Bay by an average of almost 7 points. I'm going to go with Green Bay. I think they'll eke this one out. 24-17. Green Bay should get back on track and get out of Carolina with a win. So not much more to say here, MF. I mean, man, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Green Bay possibly being that team that nobody wants to face in the NFC playoffs, but they lose at the Giants on the Monday night. And then last week, they did something they never did before in their illustrious history of Lambeau Field. They allowed a visiting quarterback, Baker Mayfield, no less, to have a perfect passer rating against them.
Yeah. It's been such a roller coaster. It's so weird. It's like, I don't know. You think about it in the hindsight. A couple of weeks ago, we were thinking after they beat Kansas City, you're thinking, oh my God, they're making the run for the Super. This is Green Bay's gonna make the playoffs. All of a sudden, now they took a couple of losses here, and now we're almost back to square one again. We're thinking, if you're Green Bay, we're thinking, are they really for real? Are they really truly gonna make it? Well, the only saving grace here is that they're going up against the Carolina Panthers, the biggest saving grace for them at this point in the game. So I think Green Bay will bounce back. I think they're going to win. If they lose to the Panthers, that's all I'm going to say. Bullock, it's yours.
I'm going to say it right now, and I'll also even say it for you, Fletch. if the Packers lose this game to the Panthers, I'm going on the record of saying this. They're done. They're finished. They ain't no way the Packers are going to make the playoffs should they lose this game to the worst team in the NFL in the Carolina Panthers. But I do see them bouncing back and winning this one after losing 2 in a row. But yeah, you heard it here first. Green Bay loses, they're done. They're finished. So nothing more to say. It's yours, Florio.
All right, gentlemen. Now we're gonna dive into some really big games coming up this weekend. Next up, it's for us anyway on our side of the ledger. This is our number 2 game of the week right here. Huge playoff implications on both sides. And MF, I'll set that up for you in just a moment. It's the Cleveland Browns squaring off against the Houston Texans, NRG Stadium, formerly Reliant Stadium in Houston, Texas, on CBS. Ian Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn, they will have the call. And it is Cleveland. Cleveland opening up as a 3-point favorite. Houston, however, leads the all-time series 7-6. But Cleveland has won the last 3 meetings in a row with Houston, including winning in Houston last year, 27-14. The Texans haven't beaten the Browns overall and at home since 2018. They won that game 29-13. MF, we started with you here. Let me set the table of how imperative this game is for both of these teams. But what's at stake? A lot at stake for both sides. Houston, if the Texans win, 72% chance to make the playoffs, along with a 28% chance to win the AFC South. They lose, 33% chance to make the playoffs, 7% chance with the division. Cleveland, if they win, they're almost all but guaranteed in. You know what their odds would be if they win? 99% if they win. But if they lose, it's still really good. It would drop down to 80% if they lose. And they actually have 7 different clinching scenarios, largely revolving around Denver and Pittsburgh losing if they win. And also a win would keep their slim AFC North hopes alive at 14%. So MF, if not for the big game we got coming up Monday night, Christmas night, this would have been our game, but huge playoff implications for both teams. So a win is huge for whoever comes out of it. Number 2 game right here.
No doubt about it. Number 2 game. And speaking of that 7 clinching scenarios, the fans want it. Here it is. Get a pencil and a paper. There's a lot that needs to be deciphered, but here it is. So, for Cleveland to get in, they would need a multitude of combinations to happen. Scenario number 1, they would need to win, Cincy to lose, Denver to lose and tie, Buffalo to lose, Miami to actually win or tie against the Cowboys, and Indy to lose to get in. Scenario number 2 is a Cleveland victory along with a Pittsburgh loss or tie, a Buffalo just a straight loss by the Buffalo Bills, Miami to win or tie, and Denver to lose or tie. Scenario number 3, Cleveland can get in by a win, a Pittsburgh loss or tie, Buffalo just a straight loss, a Miami win or tie, Jacksonville would have to lose, and Indianapolis would have to win their game in order for the Browns to get in. See. Scenario number 4 would be a Cleveland win, a Pittsburgh loss or tie, a Denver loss or tie, a Jacksonville loss, and an Indy win outright. Scenario number 5 is a Cleveland win, a Pittsburgh loss or tie, a Buffalo straight loss, a victory by Kansas City and Indianapolis, and a Jacksonville loss, and that gets them home. The next scenario, which is scenario number 6, would be a Cleveland victory plus a Pittsburgh loss or tie, plus a Denver loss or tie, a Miami win or tie, and an Indy loss. And that will get them in. Scenario number 7 is Cleveland to win their game, Pittsburgh to lose or tie, Denver to lose or tie, Miami to lose or tie, and a Jacksonville straight loss. And scenario number 8, the final scenario, would be if Cleveland wins, Cincy and Pittsburgh ends up in a tie game, Buffalo straight loss, Indy a straight win, and Jacksonville with a straight loss. So if Cleveland gets all that, they're in. I don't think it's going to happen because there's too many variables, but just the win alone puts them in almost a guaranteed home free spot that they'll be in the postseason. For Houston, look, division's still on the line. You're tied for the division lead, so obviously you need the game. And I heard that CJ Stroud possibly could play. That's a massive, massive, massive announcement. If Stroud can play, that actually could help Houston win this game. So, God, this is the toughest game of the week. This is the toughest call. I gotta say Houston because of the Stroud return, but I would not be shocked if Cleveland wins. So, Michael Bullock, it's all yours.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is all Cleveland's got to do is just win, and then see what happens with the rest of the scenarios. But yeah, I'm with you. I gotta go with the Cleveland Browns to win this one. I mean, this is just too big. I mean, even if CJ Stroud does play, I mean, will he be 100%? That's going to be the key. So, Cleveland wins. It's yours, Florio.
And Derek Stingley Jr. are in a similar tier. Expect some tough sledding for quarterbacks throwing to wide receivers. This thing just bounced on me. Hold on. Okay. The Browns have won a franchise record 5 times with a game-winning drive in the final 2 minutes of regulation this season. They will add to that Sunday as Cleveland will win a 6th game that way with another dramatic fourth-quarter comeback in Houston. Texans are 4-1 again that ended with a winning record, tied for the 4th best win percentage in the NFL. Only the San Francisco 49ers at 5-0, the Atlanta Falcons at 2-0, and the Baltimore Ravens at 5-1 have been better. The X Factor, Browns tackles Jaron Christian and James Hudson III. These backups have been solid, rough and pass block win rate, but they'll have to face a feisty Texans pass rush that sacked Tennessee quarterback Will Levis 7 times. Injuries to the offensive line have contributed to the Browns' recent struggles running the ball. Since quarterback Joe Flacco has played well, it's likely to look more to the passing game. That is great for David Njoku, as the Texans defense gives up the 7th most fantasy points per game to tight ends. 4 of the last 5 Texans games have gone under the total. We got another close FPI here. Cleveland is the FPI favorite, only 53% going with Cleveland by an average of 1 point. But it's very tough to call. Who do I agree with? I got to go with Bullock. I got to go with Cleveland. I think Cleveland finds a way. I'm going to say 23-20. But I would not at all be surprised if Houston were to win, especially if it indeed is CJ Stroud. If CJ Stroud indeed does come back, so we'll have to wait and find out. But for right now, I got to go with Cleveland. So 23-20, Cleveland wins. Let's move on to the next matchup, as it will feature the Detroit Lions squaring off against the Minnesota Vikings, U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. This game on Fox. And it will be Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Shannon Spake on the call. And Detroit opening up as a 3-point favorite. First meeting between these two NFC North Division rivals. Minnesota with a very lengthy regular season series lead. Minnesota leads the all-time series 80-41 with 2 ties. Both teams split last year. Both teams winning at home. But here's the thing, guys. Minnesota has won 5 in a row in Minnesota against the Detroit Lions, including 28-24 last year. The Detroit Lions have not won in Minnesota since 2017, and that was a 14-7 final. So, Michael Bullock, I believe it goes to you here to start this one off, and it's very simple. For the Detroit Lions, all they have to do, in the immortal words of the late great Al Davis, just win, baby. Because if they just win, they win the NFC. They will do something they have not done since 1993, and that is win a division championship. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, who would have thunk it with the Detroit Lions? I mean, that they be one victory away from doing something that hasn't been done in 30 years. I mean, win a division title. I mean, who'd have thunk that going into the season? But the thing was, I mean, after what we saw last season with them, we thought this team could contend for a division title, and that's what we're seeing right here. And I'll tell you, Dan Campbell right now, he deserves a lot of props for putting this team where they are right now. But Minnesota's going to want to play the role of spoilers, but I just don't see that happening. Dan Campbell's going to have this team focused and ready to do something that hasn't been done in 30 years. And that is win a division title. So the Detroit Lions win the division, and make the postseason for the first time since the 2016 season. So, man, there's really nothing more to say. It's yours, Florio.
What a story, man. What a story. A lot of you know the story. My older brother Nick is a big time Detroit Lion fan. I mean, his hero was Barry Sanders, and the last time they won the division, Barry Sanders, of course, was the face of that team, obviously, and he was 16 years old and a junior in high school the last time the Detroit Lions won a division championship. And he did lose interest in them for many years when they had their hard times, their struggles, especially that 0-16 team that we don't talk about. But how awesome this would be for their fans, especially him. I mean, and they started winning, and he started cheering them again. He started rooting for them again, and what a present this would be for him on Christmas Eve day of all days. So, but let's break it down in all seriousness, though. When it comes to the other side of the ledger, guys, this is the number 2 game of the week on the other side. There's a game that's bigger. We know what that is. While most eyes have been focused on how Lions quarterback Jared Goff will fare against the Vikings blitz packages, the game could turn on how well the Lions do or don't run against the Vikings defense. The Lions entered the game with the NFL's second most rushing yards, 1,973, while the Vikings defense has limited opponents to the league's fifth fewest rushing yards, 1,288. It's hard to imagine the Lions losing if the Vikings cannot stop their rushing attack. Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs will have the third 100-yard rushing game of his rookie season. The number 12 overall pick continues to grow more comfortable, entering the final stretch as his maturity level increases. Coach Dan Campbell views him as a trusted playmaker in the offense, and Gibbs will continue to get plenty of touches in Minnesota. Jared Goff has consistently excelled against defensive back blitzes. He has the third highest completion percentage and yards per attempt when defenses send a DB blitz, which the Vikings do at the highest rate in the league. The X factor is Lions cornerback Cameron Sutton. One easy way to lose to the Vikings is to let their wide receiver Justin Jefferson dominate. Sutton mostly traveled with Denver's Courtland Sutton last week, so presumably Jefferson will be his primary responsibility. What's at stake? Well, let's start with the most important thing. Detroit can win the NFC North, hence clinch a playoff spot with a straight-up win. Even if they lose, it can still get a playoff spot if Seattle also loses to Tennessee. But what about Minnesota? Minnesota can increase its playoff chances to 70% if they pull this win. But if they lose, their odds drop all the way down to 28. The Lions defense has given up the sixth most fantasy points a game to quarterbacks this season. In super flex formats, Nick Mullins is an intriguing sleeper with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson as his top receiving playmakers. The Lions defense also gives up the eighth most fantasy points a game to wide receivers and the eighth most fantasy points a game to tight ends. The Vikings have covered 5 straight games as an underdog, 5-1-1 against the spread this season as an underdog. But the FPI likes Detroit. 61% by an average of almost 4 points for the Detroit Lions. And I am going to go with the Detroit Lions to continue this magical season. I think it will be close going into the fourth quarter, but I think Detroit will put it away with a late score. I got the Detroit Lions winning this game 31-21. Detroit wins in Minnesota. And for the Lion fans, including my brother, they'll be partying like it's 1993. So there isn't much more to say. MF, simple as this. Lions win. And we got a division winner for the first time in 30 years. What a story.
Yeah. And I know if you're a Lions fan, you've been waiting for that moment. You've been waiting for those words to be NFC North Division champions. To win the NFC North, it's going to be unbelievable. For a number of years, we've always talked about the Lions being a doormat. That they are, the same old Lions. That even if they had any good fortune, they choked it away in misery, in disappointment, whatever you want to say. For the first time in a long time, this team, they wrote the book, rewrote history, and like, you know what? We are not the same old Lions. We are the brand new Lions, and you're going to respect us. You're going to see, we are going to make you acknowledge us as a great squad. And, obviously you had the detractors, you had the snickers, you had the people who kind of was like, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. They made us believe on night one when they went up against the Kansas City Chiefs and hung with them to the very end. Yes, if I remember correctly, they lost the game, but
Detroit won.
No, Detroit won it. That's right. So I stand corrected. But that was the moment where everybody, took notice of over KC. And the way that they've been playing all season long, They just made it go better and better and better and better. Jared Goff was an outcast. Everybody was like, this guy is nothing but poison. That this guy is not even a good quarterback. That, the Rams ran him out to get Matthew Stafford and made the better decision by getting rid of Goff. Jared Goff is now one win away from making the doubters eat it. He is one win away from basically telling the naysayers, the doubters, the people that ran him out, look at me now. Look where I am. And this would be the ultimate for Jared Goff and for the Detroit Lions, because the Lions fans can legitimately say they are in the playoffs. They are the division champions, and they will never be able to take that away from us. You know what? When Dan Campbell started the team, when he was named the head coach, a lot of people laughed and snickered about his comments about the gnawing of the kneecap. Let me tell you, Dan Campbell has put a life and brought something to Detroit that no coach has ever done. The last coach to do it, I believe, was Bill Font. Oh, by the way, I believe he was the coach in 1993 that took Detroit to the postseason that year.
Who was it?
Bill Font?
Wayne Fonts.
Wayne Fonts. Okay.
Wayne Fonts, yes.
Well, I was right with the last name. But think about that. Think about all the times and everything that they could have had. From Barry Sanders retiring early in his career, where he could have been the greatest of them all. So then the thing with Calvin Johnson, as he retired early in his career, where he could have been one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history, but got out of the game early. Now, was it the politics of the Detroit Lions back then with the Ford family? I think there was. I think there definitely was a lot of stuff that we can talk about. But the thing is this. Did anybody think that when Dan Campbell took the team that this was going to happen? No. Let's be realistic. I don't think nobody did. Nobody really felt that Detroit was going to be this. They thought the turnaround was going to happen, but did anybody legitimately think NFC North champions? Not really. Playoff caliber squad? Absolutely. But what they are about to do is going to be something that is to be behold. And believe it or not, they have an outside shot at the number one seed. They do. They still have a shot at it. So could all roads through the playoffs go through Ford Field in Detroit? They would need a little thing. They would need a little bit of some magic to happen with that. They would need the 49ers to collapse, and they would need Dallas and the Eagles to keep, playing that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type attitude. But at the end, I got Detroit winning and clinching the division. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
I think Bullock started it, right? I believe he did. So, yes. So, yeah. What a story indeed. That's all there is. Yep. Okay. Bullock started it. So we move on to me now. In our next game, we got 2 early games left. Next up, for our side of the ledger, this game came in as our number 8 game of the week. Number 8. The Washington Commanders squaring off against the New York Jets, MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey, in the Meadowlands. Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, and Aditi Kinkibwala will be on the call for CBS. The Jets opening up as 3-point favorites. Washington, however, leads the all-time series 8-4, but the Jets have won the last 3 meetings in a row against Washington, including the last one in Washington in 2019, 34-17. Jets won that one. Last meeting in New York, 2015. Jets won that one also 34-20. Washington has not beaten the Jets in New York and overall since 2007, 23-20 overtime win at the old Giants Stadium. And nothing more to say on that. So let's dive in. Let's dive on into this one. The Jets quarterback carousel is spinning once again as Trevor Siemian is expected the Jets' 4th different starter. The first time since 1989 they've had that many in one season. All told, the Jets quarterbacks have a league low 9 touchdown passes, 10 fewer than Commanders quarterback Sam Howell, who was replaced late in last week's loss to the LA Rams. Washington's defense, ranked last in the NFL, will hold the Jets to fewer than 250 yards of offense. Jets fans might not consider that bold given that New York ranks last in yards a game at 255. However, the Commanders have held one team to fewer than 300 yards since the season opener. That was the New York Giants in Week 11. They allowed 385 yards a game and have allowed more than 400 yards in 4 of the last 5. It's bolder than you think. Jets receiver Garrett Wilson needs 118 receiving yards for his second straight 1,000-yard season. He would be the first Jet player to do that in back-to-back seasons since Keyshawn Johnson in 1998 and 1999. And he needs 18 receiving yards to become the first player in Jets history with back-to-back 900-yard seasons to start a career. The X factor is the Jets' offensive line. It ranks 30th in pass block win rate over the last 2 weeks, which makes life brutal for Wilson, Siemian, or anyone playing quarterback. Heck, Aaron Rodgers would not have had an easy time. The Jets simply have to do better in this area. And what's at stake? Well, nothing. Just a couple of eliminated teams playing in East Rutherford. Washington and New York can jockey for draft position, where the Commanders would have a distant 2% chance to pick number 1 if they lose. It would be tempting to start Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin, who might have had his best game last week against the LA Rams with 12 targets and 26 fantasy points. But New York's defense has given up the fewest fantasy points a game to wide receivers. So you'll want to start Jets running back Breece Hall and receiver Garrett Wilson instead. In terms of fantasy points allowed a game, Commanders defense gives up the 6th most for running backs and 2nd most for wide receivers. Commanders are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games, longest active against the spread losing streak in the NFL. Jets are 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games. Slight FPI edge to the Jets, 56% by an average of 2 points. I got the Jets winning 19-13. Jets over Washington. So, MF, your thoughts as we have the Commanders and the Jets are number 8 game of the week.
And I'm in total agreement with you, Anthony. I actually got the New York Jets winning as well. There's really nothing more to add there. So let's just Michael Bullock, I'll just give it to you quickly.
Yeah, I'm going with the. Yeah, it's tough with this. I mean, I want to go with the Jets, but there's part of me that wants to go with the Washington Commanders here. So I'm going to take a slight chance here, and I'm going to go with the Commanders as well. But if the Jets win, I would not be surprised. So let's move on, Florio.
Our final early game of Week 16. It's our number 7 game of the week. The Seattle Seahawks squaring off against the Tennessee Titans from Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Andrew Catalan, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan, AJ Ross for CBS on the call. Seattle opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. Seattle leads the all-time series 10-7. Tennessee, however, has won the last 2 meetings against Seattle, including a wild 33-30 overtime win in Seattle in 2021. Titans, Tennessee won the last meeting in Nashville, 33-27. Seattle's only won in Nashville once, and that was back in 2005, 28-24. So, MF, Let me set up the let's set up the playoff for what's at stake. Tennessee already out. We know that. So all eyes are on Seattle. Seattle coming off that huge win Monday night against Philadelphia. 71% likely to make the playoffs with a win. They lose, it drops all the way down to 1%. All right, so MF, your thoughts now on Seattle and Tennessee? Like I said, Seattle 71% playoff odds if they win, 34% if they lose.
Yeah, I think Seattle's going to win this one. Look, Geno's coming back. Geno Smith has been cleared. He will play on Sunday. I like that. Obviously, Tennessee had, they had that miracle performance against the Miami Dolphins. Everything went right that night for them. I don't know, man. I feel like this is all about. I feel that Seattle is made for this moment. So give me the Seahawks to win it. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, with Geno Smith coming back, you know that it's going to be a big boost to the Seahawks here. Yeah, and Tennessee, like you said, weeks ago they came off that miracle win against the Dolphins, and yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here with them. So I'm with MF. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks as well. So it's yours, Florio.
Yes, indeed. Titans running back Derrick Henry's 16 carries for 9 yards last week was his worst performance ever as a starter. Despite having a down year, he is still on pace for 1,073 yards this season. The Titans need to get Henry back on track in order to win. He should get plenty of opportunities against the Seattle defense that is allowing 127 rushing yards a game. Seattle safety Julian Love will make it 3 straight games with an interception. Whichever quarterback starts for Tennessee should give him an opportunity or two. Neither is afraid to push the ball down the field, and both have struggled with accuracy this season. Will Levis, who hurt his ankle last week, has the third off-target percentage among qualifying quarterbacks at 17.8%, while Ryan Tannehill, who has not played enough to qualify, is at 18.2%. Love has 4 takeaways the last 2 games and will get another against the Titans. Derrick Henry has had a career-low 3.8 yards to carry this season. Last week, he had 10 yards from scrimmage on 20 touches. Fewest yards from scrimmage with at least 20 touches since individual stats were first tracked in 1933. The X factor is Seahawks cornerback Rick Woolen. In terms of what we'll call yards saved, essentially the difference between his yards allowed via receptions or penalty yards and what we would expect for an average outside corner given his playing time, Woolen is well above average with 57. If he can reduce the role of Titans receiver DeAndre Hopkins, that will significantly hamper Tennessee's offense. Seahawks receiver DK Metcalf is averaging almost 8 targets and 15 fantasy points this season. His fantasy ceiling is much higher in a favorable matchup, which is what Metcalf has against Tennessee. Tennessee's defense gives up the 7th most fantasy points a game to wide receivers. Having Geno Smith back under center would help Metcalf even more. Titans are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games as underdogs. Believe it or not, guys, the FPI actually likes Tennessee for some odd reason. 61% for Tennessee by an average of 4 points. Disagree with that wholeheartedly. Seattle wins this one. Close game, yes. I'll give them that. But Seattle will win this game. 23-17. I got Seattle winning this one. Now we're on to the late games, gentlemen. 3 of them. And we start with the game at 4:05 on CBS, and it's our number 3 game of the week. Another big game here. The Jacksonville Jaguars squaring off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Raymond James Stadium in Tampa on CBS. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins will have the call for that one. And the spread favors Tampa Bay, but only by 1 point. Jacksonville leads the all-time series 4-3, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won the last 2 meetings in a row against Jacksonville. Last meeting, 2019 in Jacksonville, Tampa Bay won 28-11. Last meeting in Tampa Bay was 2015. Tampa Bay won a wild one, 38-31. The Jaguars have not won in Tampa Bay. They've only won in Tampa Bay once, and that was all the way back in 2007. A 24-23 win in Tampa Bay. So I believe this one goes to the Bullock, I believe. So Bullock, here we go. Our number 3 game of the week. Another game with big playoff implications on both sides of the ball. Let me pull it up here. Jaguars win, 92% chance they make the playoffs, and an 82% chance to repeat as AFC South Division champions. They lose, 62% to make the playoffs, 42% chance to win the division. Tampa Bay, 83% chance to make the playoffs, 75% likely to win the NFC South. Even if they lose, Tampa Bay would have a 55% chance for the playoffs and a 44% chance for the NFC South. So Michael Bullock, another big game with big playoff implications on both sides. Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, leading off the late games, our number 3 game of the week.
Yeah, this is another big game here. I mean, especially for both sides. I mean, both fighting for playoff spot, and also when it comes to the division on both sides. So, and as of right now, from what I've been hearing, when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, he is currently listed as questionable with that concussion. So the thing is, I mean, yes, he did return to practice, but he has to clear the concussion protocol if he wants to play. So this is a tough one here. I mean, but you know what? With or without him, I still feel that the Jacksonville Jaguars will get the job done here. So I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars to win. So it is yours, Florio.
Yeah, Bullock's right. Here's another tough one that could go either way, honestly. The Bucs' 3-game win streak propelled them to the top of the NFC South, while the Jaguars are on a 3-game losing streak and hoping to hold on to the AFC South, which is currently immersed in a 3-team tie along with Indianapolis and Houston. Much rides on Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence's status in the concussion protocol. If he is not cleared, it would mark the first missed game of his NFL career. Jaguars will rush for fewer than 50 yards even if Lawrence plays. The Bucs rank 9th in rush defense, 96 yards a game, while the Jaguars' run game has really struggled the last month, only 71 yards a game, especially up the middle. They've averaged just 11 yards a game rushing up the middle the last 4 games, and that is with Trevor Lawrence on the field as well. Bucs wideout Mike Evans has 92 career receiving touchdowns, tied with Las Vegas's Davante Adams and Rob Gronkowski for 12th most all time. Don Hudson is next up with 99. The X factor is Jaguars cornerback Darius Williams. He's having a hell of a year with 1.1 yards per coverage snap allowed and minus 14 EPA allowed per NFL Next Gen stats. Both better than average numbers for an outside corner. And that matters a ton in this game because at least some of the time he'll face Evans, who is also having a very strong season. Lawrence has an excellent matchup against the Buccaneers secondary if he clears concussion protocol. Tampa Bay's defense has allowed the 2nd most passing yards a game to opponents and the 6th most fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. Receivers Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones should also benefit from this. And don't forget about tight end Evan Engram, as the Bucs defense allows the 6th most fantasy points a game to tight ends. Buccaneers are 0-6 outright against teams currently with winning records and 3-3 against the spread. And I actually stand corrected. This is the 2 other massive FPIs. The FPI gives it to Jacksonville 50% by an average of 0.1 points. Very tough to call, but Michael Bullock, I have to respectfully disagree with you. I got to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am really liking what I'm seeing from this team, especially Baker Mayfield, after the history that he made last Sunday at Lambeau Field, becoming the first visiting quarterback to ever post a perfect passer rating in the hallowed halls of Lambeau Field. No quarterback can ever say they did that, but Baker Mayfield can say, I can. And I did. So I got to go with Tampa Bay. They're the hotter hand right now. I got to go with them. 24-19, Tampa Bay defeats Jacksonville. MF, number 3 game of the week. What another big one for us. Massive playoff implications on both sides. Ooh.
It doesn't get any bigger than this one. Yeah, absolutely. It's a make or break. I did see something about Lawrence might not be able to play. I'm just trying to confirm that. So just bear with me, folks. On that front, see Lawrence. All right, he's still listed as questionable. I thought I saw something about him that he possibly was going to be out, but I don't have anything confirmation about it. It does hint because if Lawrence does go, I probably would agree with Michael Bullock and actually go with Jacksonville to win. However, if they don't go, then obviously I will go Anthony Florio and Michael Bullock would go lone wolf on this one and get the howl ready. So I honestly, this could go either way, but man, I can't really make a true pick here. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I do believe maybe Tampa ekes it out, but again, it's not enough for me to have Michael Bullock do the wolf call. I'm not as confident as I normally would be. So I would say don't do it, Bullock, because I'm not 1,000% sure. I'm kind of on the fence on this one. So
yeah, that's understandable.
For now, I'll say Tampa wins. But obviously, I reserve the right to switch my pick on this one. If Lawrence does play, I would go Jacksonville in this one. So it kind of hinges on the injury more than anything else, Anthony. So back to you.
Yeah, and it's understandable because, like you said, we still don't know because he's still listed as questionable. If he was out, then I'd be bringing out the lone wolf. But in this case, I can't do it.
All right. So we move on to the 425 games now. There's 2 of them. But we're going to get the what I call the fertilizer out of the way first before we get into the big one. And it will feature the Arizona Cardinals squaring off against the Chicago Bears from Soldier Field in Chicago. Let's see who's on the call for this one. Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, and Laura Oakman will be on the call for Fox. And Chicago opening up as a 4-point favorite, and rightfully so. Series history, it favors the Chicago Bears, and it's a one-sided affair here, guys. 57-29 with 6 ties. But the Arizona Cardinals actually won that game. They actually won the last time these 2 teams met, and I think it was in Chicago. And that was in 2021. Arizona won 33-22. Chicago's last win at home against Arizona was all the way back in 2003, and that was a 28-3 beatdown. So I believe this one goes back to me. So, all right. The Bears return home to Soldier Field, where they've won their last 3 games. Let me just do a quick double check here. 1, 2, 3. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. It does go to me. Okay. Oh, we got perfect setups here. Okay, great. All right. As I was saying, the Bears return home to Soldier Field, where they've won their last 3 games after a blown double-digit fourth-quarter lead, their 3rd of the season in Cleveland, all but wiped out their playoff hopes. Both teams are in a position to start thinking about 2024, with 3 games remaining, and questions as to whether their current starting quarterbacks, Chicago's Justin Fields and Arizona's Kyler Murray, will remain in those positions next season. They are both in play for a top 2 pick in a draft likely topped by quarterbacks Caleb Williams, and Drake May. Cardinals running back James Conner will continue his tear against the top-ranked Bears defense with his second 100-yard game in the last 3. The Bears are allowing 80 yards a game. Conner is averaging 72 this season, but he has averaged almost 96 the last 2 games. The Bears have not allowed a 100-yard rusher this season. Cardinals have a 7-24 record since the start of last season. The next loss would give them their most losses in a 2-season span since the franchise moved to Arizona in 1988. They lost 24 games over the 1991 and 1992 seasons. The X factor is Bears linebacker TJ Edwards. There's an old school advanced metric called plus EPA for defenders, which awards the entire EPA of any positive play for the defense to any defender who shows up in the play-by-play via tackle, sack, quarterback hit, defense, etc. Linebackers usually fare well, but Edwards leads the NFL in the metric this season. He can help shut down the Cardinals on Sunday. Nothing at stake here. Well, a Chicago win would give it a 1% chance to make the playoffs. So there's that. Arizona, who's already eliminated, could make a slight push toward the top draft pick if they lose 7%. Justin Fields' dual threat ability should be on full display against a Cardinal defense that has given up the 8th most fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. Receiver DJ Moore is also well positioned for success. He has had 8 or more targets in 5 straight games. Moore has scored 20 or more fantasy points in 3 of them. Murray is 15-5-1 against the spread in his career as a road underdog, 12-9 outright. FPI likes Chicago, 62% for Chicago by an average of 4 points. Close game, but I think Chicago takes this one. 27-24. I got to go with Chicago to knock off Arizona. So not much more to say. MF, your thoughts?
Yeah, Chicago wins. I think that's pretty much. It's pretty safe to say. Really nothing more to add. So Anthony, Michael Bullock, gets yours.
And of course, you can't help but think when it comes to the Bears and the Cardinals, what's the one game that comes to your mind when you hear of it?
The infamous Monday Night Football game in October of 2006. Arizona dominated most of that game. Chicago pulled a massive comeback to win, stay undefeated, and the late great coach Dennis Green gave us the greatest soundbite in NFL history. They were who we thought they were.
Yeah, I mean that is, and unfortunately, I see Cliff Kingsbury. I see the coach for the Cardinals basically doing the same thing too. I mean, because it looks like the Bears are gonna. I think the Bears are gonna win this one, and the coach is gonna say the same thing. They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. It's yours, Florio.
Gentlemen, are we ready for the first half of our big Christmas double main event? I know good old MF Michael Fletcher damn sure is. The other 425 game on Christmas Eve Sunday, it's America's Game of the Week on Fox. The Dallas Cowboys squaring off against good old MF Michael Fletcher's Miami Dolphins, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olson, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi, they will be there. The Miami Dolphins are opening up as only a 1.5 point favorite. It's a 1.5 point spread for Miami. Series history, regular season, it's tied 7-7. So whoever wins takes the regular season series lead. Last meeting was 2019 in Dallas. Dallas won going away 31. Last meeting in Miami, 2015. Dallas also won 24-14. MF, not good news for you. The Cowboys have won the last 4 meetings in a row against Miami. Miami has not beaten Dallas since Thanksgiving Day 2003 at the old Texas Stadium in Dallas, 40-21. And MF, the last time your Dolphins beat the Cowboys at home in Miami, you got to go all the way back to their Super Bowl year of 1984 at the old Orange Bowl. 28-21. MF, it's only fitting that you lead off on this game here. Let's set it up. What's at stake? A lot at stake for both sides. Percent. They will also be watching the race for the number one seed in the AFC. 30% odds with a win, 9% odds with a loss. And for Dallas, they will mainly focus on the NFC East. 34% chance with a win, 24% chance if they lose. MF, this game right here will literally tell us if you're Miami Dolphins, if they're not only for real, but if they're also ready for prime time against a prime time opponent. Yes, it's not a prime time game technically, but it technically has the feel of it. I mean, when was the last time the Dolphins had a game this big?
It's been a while. It's been a long time. Look, a lot of the narratives, a lot of anger, a lot of things has been thrown out about Miami. You know, after that loss against Tennessee, it kind of reignited a little bit of some anger from the fan base, and it kind of poked a lot of people the wrong way. The Jet performance kind of tempered the attitudes a little bit, but now you got Dallas, and this is a massive game. Some people are saying that, you know, after what happened to Dallas, that it provided a blueprint for how to beat the Cowboys. A couple of fans went out and was afraid that Dallas was probably going to put the beat down on Miami after the embarrassing performance. And, you know, through the week, Dallas has been getting ripped apart by the media. Rightfully so. Some people are saying that this is that Dallas is not what we thought they were, that they are, whatever you want to call them, that they can't beat the big teams. They're 1-3 against, above 500 teams. Miami has, I think, faced off with two major offensive teams, Buffalo and I think two teams that was over 500, and Miami lost them both games and lost them pretty badly. So you got that narrative going on. Then you get the narrative about that, well, it's simple for the Dolphins. If they win on Sunday, they're at least going to the playoff. There is a shot at division, but it all hinges on Buffalo. If Buffalo gets upset by the Chargers, that could open the door for Miami to not only win to get into the playoffs, but that game against Dallas could also be the game that could give the Miami Dolphins the AFC Eastern Division title for the first time in over almost 20 years.
2008.
So, yeah. So 15 years, as a matter of fact. Miami would win the division for the first time ever in 15 years. So there's that going on. And going into the week, I've been hearing about everything. I've heard from ESPN, I've heard from Fox, I've heard CBS, all these professionals, all these people saying how this game, majority of them are saying Miami's going to win. I like that. Then, obviously, I heard comments yesterday from the biggest Dallas Cowboy fan, Derek Ferreira. And I I listened to his comments very intently. Wanted to hear what he had to say. And he put bullet points about, Miami's offensive line, how they've been injured lately, and it's true. He wasn't talking out of his rear end. Miami has all O-line problems. Robert Hunt does not look like he's going to play. Teron Armstead will play on Sunday. That's a big boost. There's some other key players that is injured right now that we don't know the status for. One thing we do know, Devon Achane is going. Tyreek Hill is going. He will play on Sunday. So that's major, major, major help for the Miami Dolphins. And, there is some injuries on the O-line for Dallas. And they said that, Dallas needs to do better, especially, Micah Parsons really needs to stand out, stand in, do his performance. And the only criticism he had for Miami was he took a minor shot at Tua Tagovailoa. He pronounced his name wrong. Then he decided to call him Tua turn the ball over. All right, I can see what you were doing there, Ferreira. Well played. But the biggest thing, and the thing that really kind of threw me for a loop and caught my attention, he actually said the Dolphins are going to win on Sunday. He picked the Dolphins to beat the Cowboys. Like, that literally caught me off guard. And I'll even freaking admit it. I did not expect that. So, the thing is this. If Miami plays the way that they played against the Jets, they're winning that game. We've only lost one game all season at home. And that one loss was against Tennessee. And honestly and truthfully, and I'm going to be real blunt with you guys, I think Miami played down to their competition that night. I think they were playing with their freaking food. They were not focused. They were not dialed in. They were thinking this was going to be an easy game, easy win, Monday Night Football, under the lights, in a spotlight game, and we laid an egg. We lost that game. And the way I feel, it goes like this. I think what Vic Fangio did against the Jets was great game planning. It was a perfect performance. You couldn't be anything more. There was nothing bad. It was great. He needs to do that again. He needs to bring that kind of pressure. Blitzing, you most likely are gonna have Xavier Howard back. They did say that there was a couple of defensive guys that might not be able to play, which is fine. There's rumors that maybe Dominic Sue might sign with the Dolphins. If he signs with the Dolphins, I know he won't be available for this week, but god dang, could we have him in time for possibly the Baltimore Raven game next week? Like, you think that could be even more better? Oh my god. So at the end of the day, it's gonna be basically, can Miami establish, because if it turns into a track meet, I know Miami can hang. They move the ball at will, no doubt about it. They move it up, they move it down, to or through the air, or we could use the run attack. For Miami to win this game, they gotta use the same blueprint that Buffalo used against Dallas. Run the football early and often. You got Raheem Mostert. Devon Achane will be ready. Jeff Wilson will possibly get a piece of this. And Chris Brooks. Oh, by the way, Chris Brooks, who was our third down running back, our guy that we would having the short yardage situation, he's off IR. He's back on Sunday. He's been cleared to play. So Miami's run attack it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Waddle, it's going to probably will have a good game. With Hill now back, that's gonna create a lot of chaos because now you got Waddle, you got Hill, Durham Smite might do something good. Braxton Berrios, he's been up and down. I hope he gets a couple of moments in, but you got to get after Dak. You got to make him uncomfortable. Look at the blueprint that Buffalo did. They were able to shut the running attack down and made Dallas one-dimensional. They forced Dak to throw the football. And when you got those type of guys, and especially with the defense that Miami buzzes around with, they will get to the quarterback. That front four, Andrew Van Ginkel, Christian Wilkins, all those boys, Emmanuel Agba, and Kader Kohu, boys, strap up and go. Get after Dak all game long. That's how you beat the Cowboys. And with everything on the line, home, then just to silence the freaking critics once and for all, let's go out there and win this game. Just let's beat Dallas. Let's stop that stupid narrative about that Miami can't win the big games. And let's silence even some of the Dolphin lovers, the so-called fake Dolphin fans. They know who they effing are. I'm not going to spew them out. But there's a few that I've seen on social media that Michael Bullock knows, Anthony Florio knows, because last Sunday I was in a very pissed off mood. Very pissed off. So I'll leave it at that. I think Miami will get the job done and they will win. I think it'll be a tough game. It'll be a wild game. 35-31. Dolphins beat the Dallas Cowboys. They'll go to the playoffs. And then, obviously, we hope and pray that Buffalo slips up, loses to the Chargers, and then we can say that the Miami Dolphins are the AFC Eastern Division champions. If we don't get it this week, then we got a monster one next week where either Buffalo needs to lose to New England or Miami will have to beat Baltimore. And oh, by the way, there is no Sunday night game. They did not change the schedule. It is set for 1 o'clock next Sunday. Game of the week, CBS. You know that's probably going to be Nance and Romo's game. Most unless something kooky happens, Nance and Romo's going to have that game next Sunday. Because that's way too big of a matchup to pass up. So, and already, Anthony, I think we can already reveal that's the Tony and Mikey special for next week. But Baltimore Ravens versus the Miami Dolphins, M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland.
In the immortal word of LA Knight, yeah.
So we can confirm that right now for you fans, that Baltimore versus Miami is the game of the week next week that we'll be covering. So Miami wins. Nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Bullock, are you there? I think we may have lost him here. All right. While we wait for Bullock to come back, Bullock, let us know when you come back so we can get you caught up here. I'll just set the table for our final Sunday game, which is the primetime game. And oh, by the way, Michael Bullock was going to lead off on it because it's only fitting because it's his team coming up. But it is unfortunately the Zonk game of the week, though, on our side of the ledger, as it will feature Michael Bullock's New England Patriots squaring off against the Denver Broncos. Well, actually, no. I got so caught up in Bullock not being there that I got to give my thoughts on this. So So we'll wait. While we wait for Bullock to come back, let me give you my thoughts on this. Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill, who returned to practice Thursday after missing last week's game because of an ankle injury, needs to average about 153 receiving yards a game over the next 3 in order to become the first player in NFL history to break the 2,000-yard barrier. That might prove difficult against the Cowboy defense that has not allowed a 150-yard receiver since 2021 and has allowed the 4th fewest passing yards a game in the league this season. Cowboys receiver CeeDee Lamb will have at least 9 catches, which will establish a franchise record for catches in a season with 112. Hall of Famer Michael Irvin set the record in 1995 with 111. Jason Witten had 110 in 2012 for the second most. Lamb has had 5 games this season with at least 11 catches. The Dolphins have allowed only 2 receivers, Carolina's Adam Thielen and Philadelphia's A.J. Brown, to make more than 9 catches in a game this season. The matchup between the Cowboys and Dolphins features the top 2 scoring offenses, with both averaging more than 30 points a game. Miami, 31.5. Dallas, 30.8. This will be the 3rd time since the 1970 merger that 2 teams averaging at least 30 points met within the final 3 weeks of the regular season. The previous 2 such matchups happened first in 1983, when the then Washington Redskins defeated the Dallas Cowboys in Week 15, and most recently 2020, when the Green Bay Packers defeated the Tennessee Titans on that cold and snowy night at Lambeau in Week 16. The X Factor, Cowboys cornerback Deron Bland. Bland giveth and Bland taketh. On one hand, he has the best EPA allowed, minus 36 of all corners this season, per the NFL Next Gen stats. However, on a down-to-down basis, he's giving up more yards than the average corner. 1.6, not counting his 67 penalty yards. Against receiver Jalen Waddle and maybe Tyreek Hill, Bland's role will be critical. We already addressed what's at stake. Dolphins have scored a touchdown on 37% of their drives at home, second highest percentage in the league. This season, Miami averages 36 points at home. Although the Cowboys' defense is tough, players like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and running backs Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane should be included in fantasy lineups. Dolphins are 8-2 against the spread as favorites. Cowboys are 0-3 against the spread as underdogs. Are you ready for the closest FPI we've ever had? Believe it or not, the FPI was given to Dallas here. 49.8% by an average of 0.0 points. I'll be honest with you, Buffalo fan, I would love to see Dallas steal one in Miami, on top of taking care of their business against the LA Chargers tomorrow night. But I have to go with the Miami Dolphins in this one. I got to go with MF. I agree it will be a high-scoring affair. I'm going to say 35-28. Miami knocks off Dallas and let the chips fall where they may. So, Michael Bullock, if you're back in, come on in, and let's get your thoughts on America's game of the week, the Dallas Cowboys against MF's Miami Dolphins. Or if not, then all right, I guess Bullock's still not ready to come back in yet. Hopefully, we'll get him back soon enough. Which is a shame because it's only because of up next. Oh, okay, Bullock's back. Bullock's here. Okay, all right, Bullock, your thoughts? Cowboys, Dolphins, huge game for both teams. America's game of the week, damn worthy of it.
Oh yeah, I mean this is worthy of being America's game of the week. A big game for both sides. Another tough one here. I mean, it could go either way, but oh man, I gotta go with the Miami Dolphins since they are at home. I mean, look, would it surprise me if Dallas came in and won? No, it wouldn't. But at the end of the day, I gotta go with the Miami Dolphins. So let's get to the next game.
And Bullock, you'll be leading off, and it's only fitting that you do because we go from MF's team to your team now. The final game of the Christmas Eve slate 8:15 p.m. on the NFL Network. Michael Bullock's New England Patriots squaring off against the Denver Broncos from Empower Field in Denver, Empower Field at Mile High. NFL Network will have this game. And for those of you who don't have the NFL Network, and this is only for the people of Boston and Denver. For the people of Boston, this game will be simulcast on your. It's actually going to be simulcast on both teams' ABC affiliates. For Boston, of course, as we all know, that's WCVB, ABC Channel 5 in Boston. And for Denver, it'll be KMGH, ABC Channel 7 in Denver. Rich Eisen, Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, and not one, but two sideline reporters for this game. It'll be Cherie Burris and James Palmer. They will serve as the sideline reporters for this Patriot Bronco game on Sunday night on the NFL Network. And Denver opening up as a 7-point favorite. Denver leads the all-time series 27-22. They've met in the playoffs 5 times, but this is the regular season we're talking about. 27-22, Denver leads it. Last meeting was 2020 in New England. Denver won 18-12. Last meeting in Denver, 2017. New England won going away 41-16. Broncos last beat the Patriots at home in not once but twice in their Super Bowl season of 2015. They beat the Patriots 30-24 in overtime in the regular season and also beat them in the AFC Championship game 20-18. So that's the last time Denver beat New England at home. So, Michael Bullock, only fitting we started off with you. Your Patriots in a primetime spotlight on the NFL Network against the Denver Broncos. Hey, I'll give you guys, like I said to you a lot last Sunday, I give you boys credit for hanging with the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. You hung with them. You even had them. You even led them at one point. But in the end, Mahomes and company were just too much. Now you got to go to Denver against the Bronco team coming off an embarrassing loss at Detroit.
Yeah, that's that wasn't good for Denver. And yeah, when it comes to my team, the Patriots, I mean they hung around and actually led for a little bit against Kansas City, so you definitely got to give them some credit for hanging around and made it much closer than what it was. And yeah, Denver losing in a embarrassing way against Detroit. So I think at the end of the day, I think they'll bounce back and win this one. So I'm going with the Denver Broncos to win this. So it is yours, Florio.
Yeah. Just bear with me here. This thing keeps flickering around with me. All right. How committed are the Broncos to their run game against the Patriot defense that is number 2 in the league and will spend plenty of resources trying to keep the ball out of Broncos receiver Cortland Sutton's hands? Nobody is advocating the veer, and the Broncos' loss in Detroit showed they need to possess the ball. Otherwise, a Denver defense that has looked tired from all the heavy lifting it has done to get the team out of its 1-5 start could be exposed. It's time for the offense to pull the Broncos through, especially on the ground. Both teams will have a kick or punt return for a touchdown. The Broncos rank number 1 in the NFL in kickoff returns, led by Marvin with a 28.5-yard average, and already has a 99-yard return for a touchdown this season. Mims also averages about 17 yards a punt return. Meanwhile, New England's Jalen Reagor gave the Patriots kickoff return unit a spark last week, 28-yard average with a long of 40 on 3 returns. Broncos have won 4 straight home games after starting the season 0-3 at home. Denver is seeking its first 5-game home winning streak in a season since 2014. X factor is Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson, for the simple reason that the quickest way for Denver to lose this game is through offensive turnovers. As long as Wilson protects the ball, Denver should be fine. Wilson has been conservative all year with just 6.6 air yards per attempt. What's at stake? Broncos are fighting for a playoff hope, and a win would put them at 32% to make the final AFC field. But another embarrassing loss to New England would drop them all the way down to 3%. And the Patriots are eliminated, but still very much in number 1 pick contention. a loss would slot them at 19% to pick atop the board. It will be difficult to have confidence in Wilson against the Patriots. This season, New England's defense has allowed the 6th fewest fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. When it comes to Wilson or receivers Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, fantasy managers should temper their expectations. Patriots are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 road games. They're also 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games as road underdogs. FPI loves Denver, 66% going with Denver by an average of 5 points. I'm going with Denver as well. 27-17, Denver over New England. MF, New England and Denver to round out the Christmas Eve slate, our Zonk game of the week.
Yeah, I'm also in agreement here. I also am going to go with the Denver Broncos to win this game. Really nothing more to add. Anthony, it is yours.
And now, gentlemen, we move on to our Christmas Day triple header. And it starts off at 1 p.m. Eastern, a game that will be simulcast on both CBS and Nickelodeon, as it will feature the Las Vegas, and this is our number 5 game of the week on our side of the ledger, comes in at number 5. The Las Vegas Raiders squaring off against the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. And on the call for this one, hello, friends. Jim Nance, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson for CBS. And for Nickelodeon, it will be Noah Eagle, Nate Burleson, and Dylan Schefter. Second meeting of the season between these two AFC Western Division rivals. Kansas City opening up as a 10-point favorite. Kansas City won the earlier meeting in Las Vegas, 31-17, and adds to their all-time series lead. They now lead at 71-53 with 2 ties. And the Chiefs have now won 6 straight against the Raiders. And Kansas City's actually won the last 2 meetings in a row in Kansas City. 30-29 last year, 48-9 the year before. The Raiders' last win in Kansas City and overall, 2020. Raiders stole one in Kansas City, 40-32. So I believe I start this off. So let's give this one a whirl. The Chiefs have beaten the Raiders in 10 of 11 games with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. But that doesn't tell the whole story. And only 3 of those wins was the final mark less than 14 points. Otherwise, they've been lopsided. So the question heading into this one is, can the Raiders find a way to stay close and give themselves a chance to win by making plays late in the game? Raiders edge rusher Max Crosby, who has a career-high 13.5 sacks, will sack his frenemy Mahomes at least twice. The rivalry between the two has taken off the last 2 seasons, even as the Chiefs have dominated the series since Crosby and Mahomes first met in 2019. Crosby has sacked Mahomes 4 times and registered 4 quarterback hits in their last 3 meetings. Chiefs are seeking their 9th straight 10-win season, which would tie for the 3rd longest streak in NFL history. It would also be Patrick Mahomes' 6th straight 10-win season as a starting quarterback, which would break a tie for a 3rd longest streak in NFL history. The X factor is Raiders edge rusher Malcolm Kuntz. You know Crosby is going to bring it, but Kuntz has been playing well. Since week 9, he ranks 5th in pass rush win rate at edge, and he recorded 2 sacks last week against the Chargers. If the Raiders are going to stifle the Chiefs, the Kuntz-Crosby tandem has to be at its best. What's at stake here? The Chiefs could celebrate Christmas with another AFC West Division title if they win, and it would also put them at an 18% chance to earn the number 1 seed in the AFC. Raiders clinging to postseason dreams, and their chances would climb to only 6% if they win. Mahomes has averaged 304 passing yards against the Raiders in his career, which is good news for Chiefs receiver Rashee Rice. Mahomes has completed 80% of his passes and averaged 9 yards per pass attempt when thrown to Rice. He also has 6 passing touchdowns and no interceptions when targeting the rookie. Raider games are 10-4 to the under this season, tied for the highest under percentage in the NFL. Highest FPI of the week goes to Kansas City, 83% for the Chiefs by an average of 12 points. But I think it's going to be a closer game than you think. I'm going to say Kansas City wins. I'm going to say 28-20. So give me Kansas City to win. So not much more to say here. MF, Raiders and Chiefs, our number 5 game of the week, kicking off the Christmas Day triple header.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think it's going to be a good game. Give me Kansas City to win, though. So I got really nothing more to add. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, Kansas City really hopes to continue the momentum from last week's win over the Patriots and against their rivals here. So yeah, I'm with the majority here. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs to win this one. So Florio, let's move on to the second game of our Christmas Day triple header.
A 4:30 p.m. kickoff. Yeah, 4:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox, and it will feature the first divisional meeting between these two NFC East divisional rivals. The New York Giants squaring off against the Philadelphia Eagles, Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Joe Davis, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Pam Oliver will have the call. And the spread favors Philadelphia. 13.5-point spread for Philadelphia. First meeting between these two NFC East division rivals. Philadelphia leads the all-time series regular season wise 89-85 with 2 ties. And the Eagles have won 3 straight against the Giants. Eagles won in Philadelphia last year 22-16. And they also met in the playoff game. And Philly won that one going away. So and then of course you're wondering when was the last time the Giants won in Philly? Well, it's actually been a while because the Eagles have dominated this rivalry. The Giants have not won in. The last time the Giants won in Philly, you got to go back to 2013 when the Giants stole one in Philly in 2013, 15-7. Every year since, the Philadelphia Eagles have beaten the New York Giants at home, including that 22-16 win there last year. So not much more to say on this. So MF, you started off. As far as what's it, let me set the table for what's at stake here when it comes to this matchup with the Giants and the Eagles. Philly is in. They clinched the playoffs, but they're still fighting for the NFC East. If they win, also have a 9% chance to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. And the Giants, if they're somehow able to pull off a Christmas Day miracle upset, 1% chance to make the playoffs. So MF, your thoughts?
Yeah. The thing is, I think Philadelphia knows what's at stake here, and they know that they'll have a little bit of motivation because of the fact that, if everything goes according to the plan, according to the Eagles, that Dallas would have lost to Miami. So they would know a win would get them right back to the division lead with 2 games to play. So I kind of feel like Philly is going to do whatever it takes. Plus, they've been hearing a lot of negativity about what's been happening with them lately. Some people are thinking that they can't hang with the the upper echelon of the NFC. So I think Philly has a lot of motivation going into this game. So give me the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the New York Giants. Nothing more to say. Bullock, it's yours.
Bullock, are you there? Okay, there you
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go with the Eagles too. I mean, look, they know what's going on. I mean, they know they haven't been playing well. I mean, they know that for sure. And I think this is definitely the game they gotta make up. But I'll tell you this right now: if Philadelphia loses to the Giants, oh my gosh, the complete and utter panic is going to set in with the defending NFC champs. So Philadelphia cannot mess this up. So I got Philly winning this one. It's yours, Florio.
Imperative, Bullock. Absolutely imperative for Philly to win this game. No question. Well, it's Matty Pencils versus Tommy Cutlets. Matt Patricia, Bullock's old friend, Matt Patricia, is in his second week as Eagles defensive play caller after taking over for Sean Desai. He's trying to turn around a defense that ranks last on third down and 31st in passing touchdowns allowed. Quarterback Tommy DeVito has given New York a spark, tossing 8 touchdown passes to 3 interceptions over 7 games, 5 starts. But the Giants are coming off a 24-6 loss to New Orleans, in which DeVito passed for only 177 yards and was sacked 7 times. DeVito will throw for 300 yards. He has never failed in prime time. So what if there is only one game of evidence? The Achilles heel of this Eagle defense is against the pass, where they are 28th in the NFL in allowing 255 yards a game through the air. DeVito has already said he welcomes the hostile environment that will surely greet him in Philadelphia, and he could put up big numbers. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts has a career-high 14 rushing touchdowns this season, already tied for the most in the season by a quarterback in NFL history with Cam Newton in 2011. A 15th rushing touchdown would tie halfback Steve Van Buren in 1945 for the second most in the season by any Eagles player. LaShawn McCoy had 17 in 2011. The X factor is Giants tight end Darren Waller. The reality of the DeVito era is that it has been fun and filled with hype, but also has contained only a single game with a QBR of 32 or greater. DeVito needs help, and Waller, who recently returned from injury, can provide it. A better game from the tight end would be the first of many breaks the Giants would need to pull an upset. In Week 15, last week, Eagles running back DeAndre Swift had a favorable matchup against Seattle and delivered a solid performance. On 20 carries, he gained 75 yards. Eagles are double-digit favorites against the Giants, so it's implied Philadelphia will be playing with a lead. Giant defense has allowed the 4th most rushing yards and 3rd most rushing touchdowns to opponents. This bodes well for Swift. Giants are 0-5 outright and 1-4 against the spread against teams currently with winning records. Philly has the highest FPI of the week. I stand corrected. 88% going with Philadelphia by an average of 15 points. I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game also. 27-13, Philadelphia beats the Giants. Gentlemen, are you ready for the main event? Here we go, boys. Main event time. The final game of the triple header, Monday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. kickoff on ABC. We talked about how possibly Dallas and Miami could be a possible Super Bowl preview. Here's another one, maybe more likely. The Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers, Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara on ABC. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters. San Francisco opening up as a 6-point favorite. Baltimore, however, leads the all-time regular season series 4-2. Their last meeting was 2019 in Baltimore. Baltimore won 20-17. San Francisco, their last meeting in San Francisco was 2015. 49ers won that game 25-20. The Ravens have only won in San Francisco once, and that was back, theme of the night, 2007. 9-7. Baltimore, ugly defensive game in San Francisco, a game that made good old MF Michael Fletcher very happy that day. So before you get my thoughts and MF's thoughts, we got to start with Michael Bullock here, because Bullock is on tap to lead off here. So Michael Bullock, you get the honors of leading off on what could be the game of the year, a possible Super Bowl preview, huge stakes. I'm going to set MF up with the stakes since it's our game, but it's high stakes for both of these teams. Number 1 seeds for both conferences at play here. So could this be a very possible Super Bowl preview come Monday Night, Bullock, in our game of the week?
Oh, I think this is definitely going to be a Super Bowl preview because with the way both these teams are playing right now, I think they're destined to face off in Las Vegas in Super Bowl 58. And this would be, if that happens, this would be the second time they've met in the Super Bowl, because we all know the last time they did was Super Bowl 47, where San Francisco almost pulled off the comeback, but Baltimore ended up winning the Lombardi Trophy. A lot at stake when it comes to this. I mean, man, this is what a way to wrap up your Christmas day with this big game. And this is one that could go either way. I mean, both teams are playing at their best right now. Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson. Oh man, this is so freaking tough. This is so tough. I can't. But you know what? I'm gonna give the slight edge, just a slight edge, to the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, the 49ers, I think I got them winning it, but I think it's going to be a very close one. Because, I mean, look, you got a man who I think is, you got two guys who could be in contention for the MVP conversation in Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. And then you look at some of the other weapons that Purdy has besides McCaffrey. You got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and that defense that continues to play well. Man, I mean, Baltimore. I mean, yeah, look, I mean that they look good. I mean, not just offensively but defensively as well. But for some reason, I just got to give the slight edge to the San Francisco 49ers in this one. But I would not at all be surprised if the Baltimore Ravens do pull this one off. So I'm going to go with the 49ers to win this one, but I am not at all comfortable with this one. So it is yours, Florio.
Absolutely understandable, Bullock. No question. Talk about a Christmas gift. This game could be a preview of Super Bowl 58, with the Niners and Ravens sitting as the betting and ESPN FPI favorites to represent their conferences in the big game. According to Elias Sports Bureau, it's only the second matchup of teams holding a share of the NFL's best record in Week 16 or later since the 1970 merger. It's also one more primetime opportunity for Niners quarterback Brock Purdy and running back Christian McCaffrey and Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson to stake a claim to the league's MVP award. The Ravens will hold Christian McCaffrey out of the end zone. He is the second 49er player to score 20 touchdowns in a season, joining Hall of Famer Jerry Rice, who scored 23 touchdowns in 1987. But Baltimore, which leads the NFL in scoring defense, has not allowed a rushing touchdown in 4 straight games, a span of 13 quarters. 49ers have won 6 straight games by double digits, tied for their longest streak in franchise history. They did it in 1987 and again in 1993. The last team to win 7 straight by double digits in a single season? Michael Bullock, you should know this. It was your infamous undefeated 2007 New England Patriots, who had 8 such games. The X factor, Bullock mentioned one of them. It's 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. The Ravens don't let receivers get open. In fact, they have the second best defensive team open score, 71, in ESPN's receiver tracking metrics. But that's not how Samuel wins. He's a yards after the catch machine. Maybe the Ravens can slow down Brandon Ayuk, who does excel at getting open, but stopping Samuel is a different sort of challenge. I'm going to save the what's at stake for MF in a minute. Because of his dual threat ability, Jackson can still be considered a top 5 fantasy quarterback, even when facing a stout 49er defense. San Francisco's defense allowed 234 rushing yards to Arizona last week. Ravens could have similar success on the ground behind their offensive line that ranks 4th in run block win rate. With Keaton Mitchell ruled out for the season by a knee injury, Jackson might get more carries, and running back Gus Edwards, who has scored a touchdown in 6 of his last 8 games, could be an intriguing flex option. Lamar Jackson is 24, 11-2 against the spread on the road in his career. The FPI likes San Francisco in this one, 64% by an average of almost 5 points. Bullock, I agree. I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers to win this game. My final score, 26-21. San Francisco defeats Baltimore in our game of the week. So there isn't anything else left for me to say. MF, let me explain what's at stake here in our game of the week. Both teams have already locked up playoff berths. The 49ers already won the NFC West. The Niners have a Week 16 path to the number 1 seed. They need a win and losses from Dallas to Miami, Detroit to Minnesota, and Philadelphia to the Giants. The Ravens can take home the AFC North if they win and Cleveland loses at Houston. And a win would put the Ravens at 83% to get the number 1 seed in the AFC. A loss, however, drops them down to 53% for that number 1 seed. High stakes for both sides. And that's the Phil Simms to my Jim Nance. Now more than ever, do that thing I like when it comes to this main event, because this is the main event, brother. It don't get no bigger. Hello, friends.
Yeah, this is it. It like you said, Super Bowl preview. Possibly, could we see this February 11th at Allegiant in Vegas on the mothership on CBS? We will see. We will see. The way it goes like this, all season long, everybody was talking about how the Niners have been amazing, this and that, and the best team. And Brock Purdy, could he be the MVP? If he beats Lamar Jackson and does an incredible performance, he might lock up the MVP here. But Lamar also has something to say about it. The Raven defense had something to say about it. So I think this is going to be a heavyweight championship fight. But at the end, I kind of feel like the Niners is probably going to win this because they are at home. The last major test that they had was Dallas, and they really had no problem with them. So, yeah, I think at the end, I have to say it will be the 49ers beating the Ravens. And, Anthony, let's call it a night.
All right, and that will indeed put the bow on this Week 16 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in, as always. We will be back with you again one more time tomorrow night, 10:30, over on MF's channel, Brace Fan 95, for another edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, Friday Night SmackDown, and AEW Collision. And then we don't see you all again until Wednesday night for our special week of programming. Wednesday night, 10:30. Now, MF, are you going to be hosting this show, or am I going to be hosting the wrestling show Wednesday night? Because I know that's Wednesday night, and but nonetheless, we will have it Wednesday night. It will be our Talking Wrestling TXN Year in Review special, as we will be reliving our standout moments in the world of professional wrestling in 2023, our year-end awards. We preview the AEW World's End pay-per-view, and preview the final Thursday night football game of this season, the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns. Thursday night, TXN Sports World Year in Review special. Like with the wrestling, we're going to relive our standout moments in the world of sports in 2023. And we will also have a preview of the New Year's 6 college football bowl games, headlined, of course, by the college football playoffs. And time permitting, we will also have a recap of that Jets-Browns Thursday night game. Next Friday night, the Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday, and New Year's Eve, and we got another round of big games. We got another huge double main event. On the other side of the ledger, it's the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys on a special Saturday night edition of Monday Night Football on ESPN and ABC. The game of the week, the Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens. Also of note, the Las Vegas Raiders and the Indianapolis Colts, the New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks, the rematch of the last 2 AFC Championship games, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. The notable games of week number 17, which we'll talk about on this program 1 week from tonight. And that is that. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, Raceway 95 at 10:30, it's Anthony Floyo here for good old MF Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, Michael Bullock. And, of course, always in forever, the First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Saturday. And until tomorrow night, for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching the Week 16 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday, right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. for everybody who's been a part of this one. For now, Anthony Florio. So long. Bye, everybody. Bye.